Okay, people, coming to you from Baines Kloof Pass today. It's in the mountain range just above Wellington. It's a really stunning view. I hope the wind doesn't mess us around too much today. But I've got an important message for you that God shares with us in 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 15. He simply says this. He says, "Be holy because I am holy." Now that is the message of Scripture throughout, is about holiness, because God is holy. God cannot stand in the presence of sin. And if you want to stand in the presence of God, you've got to deal with that stuff. But we have a different perspective on this thing called holiness, because we sometimes think that holiness is a behavioral kind of thing. I've got to kind of behave holy. That means that I've got to deal with sin. I've got to be sinless, and I've got to beat myself up if I do badly, in the hopes that maybe I could do better and be more holy. I'm going to tell you, nothing is further from the truth. Although it is true that we do need to deal with the issues of sin, obviously for reasons that we are pretty obvious. But this holiness, because of God's holiness, is absolutely key. And if behavioral holiness was measured according to God's behavioral holiness, and we had to match that standard, we're dead in the water. There's no ways that we could ever achieve the holiness of God if behavioral holiness is what it is about. So what is God saying when he says, "Be holy as I am holy"? It's very simple. It's not so much a matter of behavior as much as it is a matter of identity. You see, God's identity is in his holiness because there's no one like him. He stands alone. He stands above every other. Every other God has got a little g. This is our God, is a God with a capital G. He is Jehovah. He is God. And he is the supreme ruler of the universe. That's who he is. And he says to us, I stand alone in the identity of who I am. Can't you guys do the same thing? The identity of who you are is found in your relationship with God. If you're a believer today, you are wholly set apart for the purpose of God. That's what you are there for. You are set aside for the purpose for which God has ordained. And that is what God says. Would you please just live as Christians? Would you please just put on the cloak of my holiness, be identified with me? Let that be your identifying factor. If we begin to do that, then behavioral holiness takes on a completely new sort of perspective. I think in 1 Timothy we see this, 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 20, we see Paul talking about this kind of holiness, where he says, in God's kitchen, as it were, he has many vessels, gold vessels, silver vessels, clay ones, and wood ones. And he said the distinction between these vessels is found in their cleanliness. He says if you clean up your act, clean up the rubbish in your life, then you will be that much usable by God. And the reason that you clean up your act is because of who you are. You are a child of God. For goodness sake, people, behave like one. Take off this mantle of sinfulness and this desire for the old life. Put on the new robe of righteousness. And in that robe of righteousness is the identity of who you are. Now, we have to behave like that. Now, this attitude of holiness is one that is not a popular message today. You see, I think that a great terminology here is that those who are believers who are desiring for holiness are happy to fly closer to the flame. You see, our God, we're told, is like a consuming fire. And the closer you get to him, the more rubbish he burns off your life, the more junk he gets to deal with. And you become more pure the closer you get to the fire of God's holiness. True spirituality is found in those who are not afraid of the pain of the burning off of the rubbish. They desire to get closer to God, and therefore they fly that much closer to the flame of his holiness and get rid of the rubbish of their own. As we fly closer to the flame, God begins to use us in a new way. as we fly closer to the flame of holiness, all of a sudden our lives take on a totally new perspective. And the things that we used to think were so big and such a big deal, they're not such a big deal anymore, because our holiness will drive us towards becoming more like God in the sense of the essence of who He is. But it all comes down to your identity. You are holy, people. I trust that you'll behave holy. You are holy because as believers you are set aside. I hope that you're using that and doing that today. Guys, have a great day, and I hope this one doesn't mess you up too much, but I hope I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.